This is TWiT.
In case you were looking for one more reason to turn on two-factor authentication on your accounts, it could keep weirdos from spying on your baby. Reporting for the Washington Post this week, Reed Albergotti writes that anyone with an internet connection and rudimentary skills can virtually break into your house using the very tools that you bought to protect your house from those intruders. Welcome to the show, Reed.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. So tell us this story of Tara Thomas.
Well, this woman in Northern California has a 3-year-old daughter, and she was using her Nest Cam as kind of a baby monitor in the 3-year-old's room. And the 3-year-old kept saying, "There's a man in my room." And Tara and her husband thought their daughter was having nightmares until one day she walked into her daughter's room and she heard, this is pretty terrible, but pornography playing through the speaker on the camera. So what had happened is somebody had logged into her account and was watching their video and also talking through using the intercom feature on the Nest Cam.
Wow. So this is sort of becoming a familiar tale. I mean, we've heard stories about, people reporting like there's a missile attack through the Nest Cam. I mean, this isn't, this is a little bit too common at this point.
Exactly right. And I had seen those reports as well. And I just was really curious about exactly what was going on because I've sort of followed this industry for a while. In fact, I have a Nest Cam that I did use as a baby monitor. And there were never any reports of Nest Cams being breached, right? It was always some other off-brand product. And all of a sudden, there were these Nest Cam breaches. So I was really curious about why exactly that was happening. I think we got to the bottom of the issue, which is that there are so many password breaches now all over the internet where some random website breached. In my case, I looked it up. My password on house.com had been breached. I didn't even remember that I had an account with House. And it's on the internet for anyone to download. And then the other thing that's going on is there's this software, it's called Credential stuffing software, that basically takes those credentials, those usernames and passwords, and stuffs them into lots of hundreds or thousands of different websites and online platforms automatically. And those credential stuffing programs have been around for a long time, but one of them, called Snipr, that I actually focused on in this article, is so easy to use. It costs $20 to download that you don't need any experience with hacking or coding to use it. And around the time that these Nest Cam breaches were sort of in the news, Snipr happened to add, what they call a config for Nest Cam. So all of a sudden, anyone who used Snipr could just log into people's Nest accounts. It's as simple as that. And I can't prove that there's a correlation there, but it certainly seems like it. And I've talked to some security researchers who felt the same way.
Well, and you point out in your article you would kind of, I think, been in communication with the person who created the app, and they said they'd remove these devices from the app if the manufacturers would actually ask them to do it. Apparently that's all it takes. But I mean, is Google or is Nest, in the business of contacting, would-be hackers or whatever, creating software that's going to make their devices, insecure and saying, please take us out of there? They're probably not going to do that, right?
No, they're not going to do that. I did ask that question. I passed that information along as sort of, in my view, a public service. And they said, we've had situations like this before where they've sort of essentially tried to negotiate with hackers and it hasn't turned out well. I asked for examples and they didn't want to share those examples. This person who would not reveal his identity to me, he goes by the online handle Pragma, which I guess is short for pragmatic and also has some sort of meaning in the security research world. He's essentially a kind of a nefarious character in this whole thing because he's allowing this hacking to happen. Now, he says he's doing it to just raise awareness of security concerns. He also happens to be profiting from this. Mm-hmm. So I kind of can see both sides here, but part of the reason I talked to this person is that I just wanted to demystify this. This isn't some sort of, security gap that it was found by, cutting edge research. This everyone pretty much reuses their passwords across the internet now. And it's just gotten so easy to do that people are doing it, and they're, not even necessarily looking to profit. They're just kind of pranking people.
And I mean, in the beginning, we learned years ago not to reuse passwords, but it just seems like there are so many more passwords, so many places. It's hard sometimes not to. You pointed out that Google said, well, they should have, this person should have turned on two-factor authentication. And Thomas said she did turn it on, and Google said, actually, you didn't. So, I mean, you can forgive this person for not really necessarily understanding. I mean, there's a lot where there's third-party authenticators, there's, two-factor through your phone. It's confusing for average people.
It is absolutely confusing. And, I have tried to explain password managers where, you have a one-stop shop. You keep all your passwords in one place, and it allows you to use randomly generated passwords on all your different accounts. And it's really tough to explain how to use this. Those password managers need to get a lot easier to use, and really everyone needs to use them. I mean, it's as simple as that. Right now, it's about 1% of people on the internet are using these things, and it needs to be 100% because everyone's passwords, if you go to have I been, I guess it's pawned or owned.com, everyone's password has been stolen at some point and posted on the internet. And if you're reusing that password, you're really a sitting duck.
Now, you also point out in your article that, Nest was acquired by Google, and Nest's kind of approach to privacy prior to Google's acquisition kind of goes counter to Google's own, approach to privacy as far as, sharing lots of data. And so, in other words, like Google is very capable of securing its products, but it kind of requires a little more than what Nest was comfortable with initially. So they're protected in a different sort of way. Is it possible at this point that Nest kind of changes that tune and over secures itself? I mean, maybe they have to if stuff like this continues, or would that even address the problem?
I wouldn't use the term over secure, but
yeah.
There are some things that Nest could do that it doesn't do. Such as use CAPTCHAs. That's where,
right.
You click on these. Your viewers know what CAPTCHAs are, but they don't want to do that because it becomes very annoying and can actually stop some people from using the product. It creates this kind of friction. And, the truth is Nest, to be fair to them, they do a lot to try to stop credential stuffing. They look for patterns. They look, of suspicious logins. They look for, same IP addresses being used to log into several different accounts. But that's not actually going to stop something like Snipr from working. You really need to use some of these more annoying tactics like CAPTCHAs.
And so, what was Thomas's eventual solution to this problem?
She unplugged her camera and she's not going to use it again. And to be honest, I actually did the same thing. I had been using this as I mentioned, as a baby monitor. And, I feel comfortable now using security cameras pointing outside to the outside of my house, but I don't want them inside my house. I think it's too risky, even though I do use a password manager and I do use two-factor authentication anytime it's available. It just seems risky now to me. And I think, that's a question more consumers should be asking themselves. Is this technology really ready yet? Should we be connecting all these devices to our home networks without really fully understanding all the risks?
Absolutely. I mean, I have cameras only pointing out as well, because our web producer has a Wise Cam, and it's super cute to be able to see his baby during the day, but I didn't have that when my teenagers were little, and it was fine. So I think you just have to weigh the risk. Wise Cam yesterday, I don't know if this was in response to all the news, but they turned on two-factor too. So if you have a Wise Cam, make sure to set that up on your end.